Hi, and welcome to today's SME Business Podcast. Your host, Mark, will be joining you to interview a founder of an SME business each week, highlighting lessons learned and revealing insights. Listen and learn each week on how to get and stay ahead.
Hi, dear listeners. Thank you for tuning in for the next episode of the SME Business Podcast. Today, we're joined by Heather Stevenson from Confidence to Cabaret. Heather is a training consultant and business coach, and her company helps people get more confident through Cabaret. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. What a nice
Yeah, it was like
introduction. Yeah.
this is like I was like, oh yeah, this is completely different subject, and also sometimes kind of like a scary subject for myself, being as an entrepreneur, I'm an introvert, which is one of those things. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, confidence through cabaret is like, oh,
Yeah.
that sounds scary, but it also sounds really cool. Um, so I was like thinking as well, like, can you tell me a bit more about yourself and how you got into entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So I've had my own companies for about 24 years as a training consultant. So I provide interpersonal skills, communication skills, leadership programs for global businesses. So I travel all around and run conferences and training programs for clients. And then obviously, as you've mentioned, I'm a business coach as well, usually related to the work I'm doing for the clients. And when COVID hit, then I could no longer travel or have large groups doing training programs and events with me. So myself and my business partner Ryan, we decided that we would use our skills, knowledge, and experience and share confidence building tips and confidence building lifestyles that um, would support people in their personal life or their work life or their stage life. And stage life could be anything from a literal stage to what you're doing here with podcasts or your Facebook lives or whatever your stage life is for you. And so we based it on cabaret. My business partner is a cabaret artist. It's a full-time profession. And what we did is we sort of said, okay, what do we learn and understand from cabaret that informs how we take up space, how we use our voice, how we express our story, and we can build confidence using those tools through our personal life or our work life or our stage life. And so we started Confidence Through Cabaret in September as a way of kind of, having an online business, which is brand new to both of us, so that we would be able to help support people, particularly those who can't go out and aren't in their usual world, in their usual environment. So like we are. We're very much face-to-face people, and all of a sudden we're not. So we have created a community on Facebook, and we do challenges, and we support one another, and we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds like a great thing, and yeah, this is the thing with COVID, the big pivot, if you will.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely,
uh,
absolutely. And I never
I,
thought I would do online stuff. I thought, I'm really very much a conference person, and I, and
yes,
I, and I'm a consultant. And what am I doing? Having crazy challenges and doing. But actually, I think with a subject like confidence and all that's around it, we need to be having fun with it, especially now. We need to be engaging in it in a way that we enjoy it, rather than it feeling like something that's difficult and scary, and which it could be, but we embrace it in a way that's perfectly imperfect, is what we talk about a lot.
yes, and then I think it's even, like I said, more important right now to still have some fun doing it.
Yeah.
And it's important as well because it's also a question where there is in a way more competition, if you will, as in as an employee. So yeah, if you can increase your confidence and so you can be more, let's say, present, without being the person that always talks, that kind of thing. Yeah, that also gets noticed, and that that it can actually mean that you as an employee can open yourself up to promotions. Or if you're talking about from an entrepreneurial perspective, it'd be like if you're doing, for instance, video calls now, where normally speaking it's easier, if you will, to detect body language and such. Um, you are now able to better express yourself within the medium of video calls, which is great, because then yeah, it's much better than an email, where you can't necessarily tell whether the person is honest, if you will. While in the video it's much harder to do so. So yeah, it's good to practice that kind of thing, because that increases your conversion rate if you want to talk extremely commercial. Um, because yeah, the people will be like, hey, this person's confident that they can do X or Y, so you let me at least have a meeting with these people, because yeah, they are confident they can do something. Well, if it's one of those things, if you can't necessarily, um, I was going to say, project that confidence, then potential people and business partners on the other end might be like, well, um, is that person even sure themselves? And if they're not sure themselves, then why should I trust them? So yeah, I think it's really important. And to be honest, it's also a question where if people do that now, it means that when we get to back to the new normal, I don't want to do too many buzzwords or whatever. But when we get back to normal conference season, and normal face-to-face meetings, then all that new skills that you build up then can transfer to those meetings. So when that returns, you can be more efficient and more, um, yeah, um, approachable and such, when you return, and be more effective. So it's not just for now, but it's also for later. Um,
Yeah,
but
I'm glad you say that because I think a lot of people are saying I am enjoying COVID, as in I'm enjoying working from home and being isolated and being not having everybody around me. But there will come a point when you'll still need those skills, so keeping them
yeah,
developed.
yes, we're not,
Mm,
exactly. We're not in a stage where there's definitely no returning to the workplace. There will be.
yeah,
Um, yes, it may be more part-time, if you will, but yeah, it's gonna happen. So it's better to be prepared.
yeah, it
Um,
absolutely is. It absolutely is. And I think, the thing is with, with, well, hopefully we'll be more skilled because, hopefully we'll be paying more attention to, one voice in a conversation. We'll be paying attention to making sure that everybody has an opportunity to input. What I see sometimes in businesses, particularly when I'm working with specific teams, is that not everyone feels equally valued or listened to. And I think,
yes,
hopefully some of what we're using as online tools is facilitating that so that we're actually aware when we haven't heard from somebody or that people are talking over one another. You can certainly pick that out very quickly. So hopefully we'll be more skilled when we're face to face as well.
yeah. That I was just thinking that's almost like a business idea where you can. I'm not saying like record conversations, but like build a solution where you record who is talking, and then use that to steer, as in be like, hey, because like you said, most often the person that's quiet and listening is actually the person that you want to talk.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so
yeah. They're
that
actually
it's almost
thinking
like a
about it.
steer. Yeah, exactly. They're thinking, they're digesting, and yeah, that they probably have the better insight. While the
Hmm.
person that talks all the time, yeah, it could be a question of filler words, if you will.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it kind of depends on how, if you are an extrovert or you're using extroverted energy and you're doing all of the talking or a lot of the talking. I
yeah,
think it depends on how you express yourself.
yes,
What extroverts often bring, as in a preference for extroversion, rather than a mood that you're in at a point. But if you're typically more extroverted, then it does bring in a lot more because when we use extroverted energy, we're not breaking things down because we're talking. We're often thinking more strategic or big picture, which there is absolutely a need and place for. But when we're using introverted energy, very often we'll be thinking and breaking it down and saying, well, how would that work? And what would happen if? And do you know what was said before? And what do we already know? And what have we tried? And all of those smaller details, which is also absolutely necessary. And so what I'm hoping from these tools is that actually people are using, the tools in an effective way that inform us of, how well we're listening and how well we're making sure everyone is heard, because there's contribution from either of those energies.
Yes, yes, yes. Both parties are needed.
Mm.
So I was wondering as well, what's the experience of setting up your online business recently versus, normally running a face-to-face business?
Well, I'm getting better at it. As in, I'm getting more patient at it. I'm used to an immediate response, even if that response is silence or reflection, or when you're face to face, you're getting so many cues. Even on the telephone, you're getting a lot of cues. But when you post something in a community and you might not hear anything for a few days, and then all of a sudden a conversation breaks out and people are messaging, it's a very strange kind of timeline of, and you have no control over when you or if you get feedback. Well, you get feedback if you don't hear anything as well. But like what people are thinking, you don't know, and if there's silence, you don't know why. But
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I'm getting better at being patient with those things. I'm also getting a lot better at not feeling like I need to be, have everything perfect. Because people are more interested typically in your content than in your, kind of how you appear and, how you sound. As long, they tend to be more interested in, do you know what you're talking about, and is this useful for me?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, if it's face-to-face, you can be like, okay, is this person getting the message, if you will?
Yeah.
While as email, it's like, you'd be like, okay, but for instance, there's no reply, but yeah, I don't know. Could be that the person is going through something, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, they didn't see
Just
it.
2 hours before they were told they have to fire 2 people.
Mhm.
So yeah, the person is distant because it's the first time in their whole career they actually have to fire someone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things where you end up in situations where the reception is basically not up to you,
Yeah.
but up to the circumstances that the person is in.
Do you know though? Thinking about it as we're talking, that's true anyway. So we never we what happens when we're face to face or when we're talking on the phone is we imagine, we kind of hallucinate really, that we think we know what somebody is saying, or if they're not agreeing, we think we know why or whatever it is. But the reality is that we never really do know what someone else is going through, as you've just mentioned, and if they're going through an example of something that's difficult, or they're not, they're unsure of, they've never been through before. So we never really know. We just think we do when we're face to face.
Yeah, yeah. It's just more when it's face to face. Don't get me wrong, I'm not an expert, but of course you can read more of body language. While
Yes.
if it's an email and you're not getting a reply, you basically it's blank, as in you don't know at all.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
for instance, it could be that they actually read the email, they are happy with it, but they're not in a place or time to do something with it.
That's right.
So you could just project and be like, hey, you know what, this was a wasted exercise. Well, actually, it's not a wasted exercise, but the person literally is not ready for it right now. Um, so yeah, that's interesting. But again, all of learning all of these skills then will also still transfer to when you go back to face meetings as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and hopefully that'll mean that we have more awareness of those things.
yes, and also I think what's going to happen as well is that it becomes more hybrid, as in
Yeah.
people will like the combination of like video messages or like asynchronous video email, if you will, which I'm a huge proponent of, because yeah, it's not a replacement for a face-to-face meeting,
No,
but
it's
at
not.
least if they see you on video, it's more, yeah, yeah, a question like, the person is not hiding behind some few fancy letters that might have been written by a ghostwriter,
hmm
uh, but literally the person speaking, I can see if they're honest and true, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think also sometimes we, when we send something like an email, we don't know what their understanding of it was, or
No,
their at all. And so when I send something out, it's with an intention, and they might have a different understanding or receive that in a very different way, and that's true anyway. You know, so the part about being online is more difficult because you, like you say, you don't have that feedback, um, and you're not as likely to be able to ask the question in a different way again. I mean, you can send a lot of emails out, and I know that that's the philosophy, is to send out a lot of emails and try and create that trust and so on. But sometimes it just makes people unsubscribe. So you've got to find that balance. And when we're face to face, we tend to get more of those cues. But I am still learning that, what that balance is, and how to create trust without actually having the voice and having the messages kind of live. And that's where my community comes in really handy, because then they can see video and they can post video and they can post comments, and that seems to be easier for me than if I'm sending an email and I get no response. I just don't know what that means.
Yes, I was going to say as well. I think what I used as well, is with the video solution, like some things, some people might think slightly corny, but like emoji reaction panel,
Hmm.
where they can like respond with an emoji, which sometimes can be like, okay, this is what I have the mental capacity for, but
Yeah.
also it can be like an indicator, like I'm sending too much. Where, for
Yeah.
instance, if it's one of those things where basically, let's say 60% goes like, oh, this is great and whatever, thumbs up or whatever. But then there's some people, that are, for instance, in a specific industry, that are doing like a thumbs down and go like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
That is then metrics for you to say, hey, you know what? I have to dial down the frequency, because it's not a question that they don't like it, but the frequency is not helping.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, there's lots of things, and yeah, again, it's not a replacement, but
No.
yeah, it's
But the,
helpful.
the the other thing to be aware of is that, of course, when we connect with somebody, we each have our own kind of um, pace for building trust with people. And so some people will trust a person very quickly or even right away, and then other people will take a while. And so having those regular emails for the person who, needs to build more of a relationship, needs to hear a bit more, needs to hear from you more regularly, then, that it can be helpful. And I think, when we're face to face again, or when we're talking to them in a different way other than emails, then we can kind of get senses of, that person is still building trust, and that's going to take time, and that's something that's earned. When it's email, you don't really ever know. And so what we kind of in some cases are forced to do is imagine, oh, they're not interested, or oh, they're taking time, they need more emails. And it can be hard to gauge. So I really like your panel of emojis idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and like like of course there will be some people that they don't like it, because they go like, well, you know, are you running a business, or is this supposed to
Yeah.
be gag? But you can't please everyone.
No.
That's also my lesson.
And nor
So I
should
was
you try.
No, exactly, because it only makes you miserable if you try to please everyone anyway.
Yeah, and you need to
Um,
find your right people. That's something else I've
yes, yeah,
learned.
you need to find your crowd.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
you really
I,
do.
so I was wondering as well. So, what is Confidence Through Cabaret about, and how did it start?
Yeah, okay. Thank you for asking. So first thing I guess is that we do not teach cabaret, nor do we show cabaret. I mean, there's a lot of cabaret online. There are a lot of amazing shows, and I would encourage you to go and support the artists that have had to go online to run their shows, because there are some fantastic performers and performances and shows. Um, but we use the lessons from cabaret as our way of promoting building confidence. So for example, one of the first things, in fact, the very first thing that I ever did in a class for cabaret was a burlesque class, and we did body tracing, which is just taking your hand and running it up your other arm, or maybe down a leg, and it's your hand and it's your leg, so it shouldn't be a big deal, but it was a very big deal for me. It was like, I don't think I could take up this kind of space. I don't feel comfortable with that. And I'm a person who runs very large conferences and runs around and can be very loud, and pretty much never have a microphone, or try not to. So you would think that I'd be comfortable taking up space, but with Cabaret, what we're talking about is self-acceptance, and we're talking about, kind of exploring that expression, and we're exploring our voice, we're exploring our message, or our narrative, we're exploring in some sort of movement through our body. We're always, using the same kind of skills in our day to day, in our work, but we're not necessarily using them on a stage where we're open for judgment. And so what we decided is that we can use that frame of not being open for judgment, just being aware of our movement and feeling good about ourselves and not judging ourselves. But self-acceptance is where we start from a place of confidence. And we always say we start from where we're strong. So what do we like? How do we feel? How do we move? And then how do we want to move? And then we start to progress from there. And oftentimes, if you're starting a business, for example, you have to start from that feeling of passion and access that, and not judge it, and not sort of say, oh, I don't think this is going to work, or I don't know how to do this, or but actually just kind of really breathe into it, and sense it in yourself, and find the alignment, and then move forward. And so we use all of those things that actually we would use if we were preparing a cabaret act. And so we use that as our analogy to build confidence and to support one another and uplift one another in each of our paths of how we're going about that.
Yeah, that sounds great. I was just thinking like, it's all my slides like, starting thinking like Broadway, West End,
Yeah,
um, which
yeah,
unfortunately, is really suffering.
it is.
Thankfully, like there's um, people going online now. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's sad that the culture sector is suffering this much because I don't know, it was Winston Churchill. I think that said like what are we fighting for if
Mm,
we don't have culture?
mm.
Um, referring like to the Second World War.
The
It's
arts.
like
Yeah.
if we don't have arts, then what are we fighting for?
Hmm.
Um,
Because
and
that's
I think that's a
expression.
very valid point because like it's like the spice of life,
Yeah.
where it's like if we don't have it, then yeah, we're just going through the motions.
So
Um,
expression, however you prefer creativity, however you want to engage in it, it is essential to each of us. We all have our own way of doing that. And one of the key things that I take from my cabaret, because I've had a lot of difficult things in my own personal life. I've had a lot of skills, knowledge, and experience gained in my business life, and then I have cabaret as my kind of hobby. And so when I look at the lessons I've learned in cabaret, I wish I had known those for my business life and for my own personal journeys. And I think, however you want to express, whether that's through movement and dance, whether that's through vocal, whether that's through some sort of, creating something in a literal sense, like, art of some sort, as in, like, I'm thinking like paintings and so on, or whether it's drama. It's really essential for us to be able to express, because that's a fundamental thing. We all just want to be seen. And that's why we start from where you're strong, and we start from your passion, and we start from you being able to feel good.
yeah, it's like it's like in a way like life is art, but it's
Mm.
also great, like how you said it yourself, or was helping you, and that's like it's almost like demonstrating why it can help others,
Yes.
as in like it helped me, and it can help you
Yes.
break through or reboot, if you will,
Yeah.
depending, or bounce back, or
Mm.
reset. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people in our community are resetting, and most of us have confidence in some areas of our lives, and not so much in other areas. And so we're all kind of supporting each other, and helping each other kind of reboot. Um,
yeah, and then other things as one as well is like stepping into your fear, like try to
yes,
do the thing that you fear most.
yes.
Um, which
And
which
that for
for
me
instance,
was cabaret.
yeah, for me one of the things was like this year, pre-COVID, I was supposed to speak for the first time at a conference with like 500-600 attendees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like literally like big conference hall, stage the size of Tokyo, that kind of thing.
Wow.
And I never spoken for more than I would say 75 people or something.
Hmm.
And then that was mostly a friendly crowd, and this was literally be all C-level, like decision makers
Wow.
and governments, like I think a few MPs and such, and yeah, so basically like lots of powerful people, and I would have been like the only one um, that was running an independent business, if it makes sense.
Yes.
So basically, every other speaker was like basically from a large company, that kind of thing.
Wow.
Um, so so of course, COVID hit. You can imagine no in-person conference because yeah, 600 people close to each other. Yeah, that doesn't really work.
No.
You can imagine the one. So yeah, that got postponed and then it moved online. So I did my speech online,
Wow.
and I still had I think 260 people attending my speech because I could see that. As in, I could see how many people were in their room and I was speaking, and there was only one person in the room speaking. That was me. So,
Wow. Well
um,
done.
so that was cool. But my I think the point was trying to get at was that it was scary doing it, of course, because I go, you go like, actually, do I know that much that, like, do I deserve that kind of attention, that
Yes.
kind of thing. But then I was asked to speak, so it's like I just should go like, oh, people ask me to speak, so I guess I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
And then the other thing as well is that what you mentioned as well is that it was much harder to gauge. Well, if it's a live event, you can like look people in the eye and you can see whether people are
Yeah.
dozing off or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
And
to
you
be
can
fair,
feel an
I
energy
had
in
the
the room.
yeah, and to be fair, I had the last speech of the day, so I wouldn't
Mm.
blame if people were dozing off.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I could like like raise my voice or change the pitch or something, like more
Yes.
exclamations if you will. But I couldn't do that because an online event.
Yes.
But then I was like, well, at least I did the online event. So then
Yeah.
when next year returns to in-person events again, then I basically I took a step in between where I didn't go from zero to speaking to in front of 600 people. I went from zero to let's say 260 online to then 600 people in person, that kind of thing.
Great. And that's the way to
Um,
look at it. It's just
and
that's a
yeah, and I
stepping
think
stone.
that's the thing as well where this is helpful if people get confidence like doing live Facebook lives, doing
Yeah.
webinars, online summits. Um, then once it starts going back to normal, they can smash those online events. But then that confidence also will help them get to the normal stage,
Yeah.
and then do that, and that they can also use that to get new clients because the clients, but the potential clients will go like, if you've been speaking at conference X, then your product or service must be legit because otherwise you wouldn't be speaking there, that kind of thing.
That's right.
So yeah, that all translates and it's all like growth, and that's really how I interpreted 2020 is like, like some things might have not gone my way,
Hmm.
but the ones that I had some influence in, at least I took the opportunity to grow, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I think that's that the definition of like in a way entrepreneurship, like
Yeah.
to find the growth, even if it's one of those things where I don't know, let's say the ship is going backwards. I don't want to make Titanic metaphors because that doesn't really work. But you get my point where it's
I do.
like, either you can like accept the circumstances or try to make the best of it, that kind of thing.
Well, and that's my greatest lesson in life is that you choose how you respond. And I had beginning of COVID, I was a mess because I didn't know what to do. I'm an extrovert, so I needed to be around people, and I couldn't.
Yes. Yeah.
I couldn't do my work, so that was a financial disaster as well as every other kind of disaster because I love my work. Um, and I think you decide how you respond, and that's what I did. And that's where Confidence Through Cabaret came, and actually, it's fulfilled me in ways that I never imagined. And I think your example of speaking at a conference, very often we're afraid of, what will people think? And that's why we start with where you're strong. We start with focus on self-acceptance first. Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in what you're doing? Do you believe in what you're saying? And then we work on how to put it across for others to believe and understand and appreciate and use. Um, but it becomes fairly clear on most, if not every medium, that if you don't believe it, it won't come across with the same passion and the same energy and the same, well, believability, really.
Yeah, and I think with that, self-belief is like it's a never-ending process, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There might be people listening that will go like, well, like I always believed in myself, and like that's great for you.
Wonderful. What wonderful, wonderful. And then
Yes.
I would say, okay, so now if you're there or you've
Uh,
always been there, then what's your next step? And your next step is, how do you cause others to believe in that?
yes. Yes. Yeah. Like
Well,
how can you, be the
yeah.
agent of change, if you will?
Yeah, and
Exactly.
one of the quickest ways is for you to be a little too, like overly confident,
Yeah.
because that can switch people off. So
Yes.
so then you would start to think about, okay, so if I believe in my message and I feel good about what I'm saying and how I'm saying it and who I am and who my audience is, then how do you ensure that they connect? Because there's a truism in communication around. Um, how can you know what you've communicated until you know what I've understood? And so, for those people who have already got it nailed with the confidence for themselves, then how can they cause others to have that understanding that you
Y-
intended them to have?
Yeah, and create a movement in the process, really.
Exactly.
Because then you end up with a force multiplier where you be like, hey, yes, I'm confident, but now I got five other people to have that confidence as well.
Yes.
So now it becomes like, I always give the example like, if you influence 10 people, then those 10 people influence 10 people each, then we're already talking about 100, and before you know, 1,000. And
Exactly.
um,
Exactly.
yeah, so that's where, like my thing is like, if I can get to the point where I can influence um, 1 million people that don't
Yeah.
work in my industry of cybersecurity to care about cybersecurity, then like that's my legacy done. As in, because the reason for that is that's sufficient of a drop on the hot plate, if you will,
Yeah.
to actually make a difference.
Yep.
Um, well, it's one of those things where, and this is like reflecting on my own industry, we're really good into talking to each other
Yeah.
because we're
Yeah.
really good introverts. And but then the problem is like it doesn't actually affect change.
Mm.
So one of my personal things is that one of this podcast, of course, but also like trying to reach out across the aisle, if you will, um, and try to speak more at non cybersecurity conferences.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice.
like trying to find angle is hard. Like if you talk like like physiotherapy conference, these people who go like, oh, I want to know about new treatment methods. They go like, okay, what do I actually talk about? Um,
Yeah.
and of course you have to relate it to that, but then you're reaching audience that would never have received the message.
Exactly.
And then it's one of those things, if you get like, even if it's like literally one person in the audience that goes like, I get it now why it's important, that's like, job done.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing telling people, but it's another thing getting people to, and I don't want to say see the light because, I don't think it's like a holy thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things, and that's what I'm working on, and that's why I still do Toastmasters and such as well to get better at my communication skills.
That's incredible. Yeah. And if we
Yeah.
keep on working at it, then we just get
We'll get
go.
there, and then there will
Yeah.
be happy place, world peace, and yeah,
Yeah.
we'll live on Mars, and yeah. I was wondering as well. So, a conference to Cabaret, who does it serve, and how?
Yeah, so we have a real mix of people in the community. We we have we have people who are actually cabaret artists, not very many, but we have some who want to build their confidence in their own personal life or in their work life. We have some people who have never even heard of cabaret, who had to actually look it up and find out what it was, when they joined us. And they also want to build confidence in some part of their life, maybe their work life or their personal or stage life. And so it serves anyone who is ready to explore and really wants to explore what it means to develop the confidence that they want to be, and I think it's a very individual journey for people. We do challenges every month that in the free Facebook community. So we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of laughs, but some of the challenges make more sense for some people because they want to be able to build those skills, and then other challenges make more sense for other people because they want to be able to build something different. So it serves anyone who wants to and is ready to explore what confidence means for them.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. And again, confidence then drives you elsewhere, as in it
Yes.
helps you be a more
Yes. And
powerful.
what we're doing now is we're recording a series of masterclasses with people who have wide-ranging areas of expertise that want to share their messages. We're a very collaborative group, so we want to co-create with different people who want to share either their skills or their methods or their message or their stories, and so we're creating a series of masterclasses. I think we have 22 planned. We've done 4 of them, and we've got the rest of them almost scheduled now. And I create workbooks from them because as a training consultant, that's a fairly easy thing for me to do, so that you can follow along with one of the masterclass experts and kind of go on that journey for yourself. And the idea is that they'll be able to pick and choose what it is that that speaks to them that they need to build their confidence. So for example, we've got somebody talking about stress management. We've got somebody talking about food behaviors. We've got a few people talking about body movement and feeling music and in using music for various things, either for energy or for relaxation or whatever the topic is. And we've got somebody talking about relationships and relationship building, because that's part of our personal life, is building a relationship with ourselves and building relationships with others. And we've got people in the community that want to be able to have intimate partnership relationships, friendships, all kinds of different relationships. So we've got somebody who's spoken to us about relationship building and so on. And the idea is that we'll build up this library on the website. So we'll launch our website in 10 days' time, and we'll have these different masterclasses available for you to be able to watch and work through in your own way. And then the community is there to support and share comments and so on.
Sounds great. Yeah, it's like again, I was going to a website already. It looks great already.
Thank you.
And then like I said, the workbooks is good because it gives people, let's say, a handlebar, if you will.
Yeah.
Like how to approach it, because if you don't, it leaves it open to interpretation, and then more people. Some people might be more effective doing that exercise then because they're already more aware, while other people might be like, I'm not entirely sure what I need to do here, and then they'll be like, oh, I'm afraid to ask because guess what, I'm still introvert at that point in time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really good to do that format as well, and then bringing experts from the outside as well.
Yeah.
I was wondering as well, so how does it relate to your business training consultancy background?
So my business background is around communication and leadership, and a lot of that is about emotional intelligence and around interpersonal skills. And when you're thinking about something like confidence, whether that's a relationship with yourself or whether that's a relationship with others or whether that's a relationship with a larger audience, we're all the time trying to work through our emotional intelligence, and to recognize our fears and to be able to work through those and prepare so that we have a toolkit. And that's what I've done in my business career is enable businesses to have toolkit for interpersonal skills and for being able to, help individuals grow within the company and help teams to be able to come together within a company. And so the skills are entirely transferable. So they very much inform the confidence through Cabaret, even though uh, their business they apply in our personal lives as well.
Yeah, no, that's completely logical. Yeah, the link there. So I was wondering as well, how can the listeners find out more about Confidence Cabaret and you, and where can they find you?
Amazing. Thank you. I'm Heather Jean on Facebook, and I am all that is Confidence Through Cabaret. So Facebook is Confidence Through Cabaret is our page. Confidence Through Cabaret Community is our Facebook community, which is where you could join and see challenges. Uh, www.confidencethroughcabaret.com will be launched on the 24th of December, 2020. So, and that's where you'll be able to access the masterclasses. In fact, we've got a challenge going on throughout December, which is Christmas confidence through Christmas. So it's about kind of taking time during the holiday season to reflect and take some self-care, and a time for ourselves, because often we fail to do that, and that's where we can lose touch with our own needs and our own voice. Um, Obviously on anything that is social media, so whether that's Twitter or Instagram, or it's all Confidence Through Cabaret. So it's very simple.
Sounds good. I was wondering as well, some more questions, that I asked my other guests as well. Was one of the things is that I'm secretly hoping, well, not secretly because I talk about it, so I can't say secretly. I'm hoping that government officials that are dealing with entrepreneurship will start listening to this podcast. Fingers crossed. Um, so I was wondering, one of the questions I always have is that what could governments around the world do better to help small businesses grow?
I think they need to be listening to what small businesses need. I think a lot of times they make assumptions on our behalf. And I know I'm in the UK right now, although I'm from Canada, I'm here in the UK. And I have found there are many government programs, none of which fit me or my small business needs. And so, I think I have to wonder, how did they how did they develop these programs without actually listening to what the small business person needs? Like, did anybody who made these policies and put these programs together actually work with small businesses to find those things out? And did they consider a range? I had to go on the UK government has a new business grant, and you can have up to £1,200, but you get £33 a week, and it takes 6 months with these little weekly drip fees, and it's crazy. You just think,
That's nothing, yeah.
what do I do with that? It's a Facebook ad. I don't know.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's literally like, I don't know, a
And
subscription for your Calendly or something.
yeah, it's maybe half a tank of petrol if you if
Yes,
you
yeah,
if
yeah,
you if you if you
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just think, did anybody actually ask the small businesses what they need?
Yeah, no, this is my own observation, of course, being in the UK as well.
Yeah.
A lot of like, we UK is a nation of small businesses. I think, to be fair, a lot of governments around the world say the same. That's one thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, let's be honest, the civil service is massive, and I think you get civil servants that don't get me wrong, they mean it well, but
Yeah.
they never actually ran their own business.
Yeah.
And then they end up with like, oh, like, this is the budget, so what can we do? Oh, we can help more people. So then if we give people a smaller grant, we can help more people. But then they forget that if that's such a smaller grant, then effectively it doesn't do anything anymore.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um,
And if
and
it's a
then,
small grant, at least give the
and
grant. Don't give it
yes,
like in a little, pennies a week.
yes, yeah, and then
Yeah.
also I was going to say procurement processes, of course, are stacked against small businesses where
Yes.
a lot of time, like just to get UK, like the Capitals of the world or the Circles of the world, they get the listening ear because they have lobbyists and they go like, um, they get heads up like, oh, there's a new procurement thing out, yeah, submit, because you're big enough, that kind of thing.
Yes,
And a
exactly.
lot of times they actually then end up operating on under cost price.
Yes.
I don't know, I forgot which one it was, but there was one that was like a massive failure where they went bust because they basically were taking on projects below cost price all the time, and they ended having to go bankrupt.
Wow.
I forgot which one it was.
See, yeah.
So basically, they were so big, so they basically were like, if you just keep taking on new projects, then at one point basically we'll figure it out, which is like, wow. Um, they were like, if you just take on the project, it means that competitors can't take it on, and then at one point maybe they just leave the market,
Yeah.
which is like a bit of too much um, fingers crossed kind of thing. Like,
Yes.
that's not how you run a business.
No,
But yeah,
exactly.
it's also, let's be honest, public-private school system doesn't help here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that could be a whole episode in itself.
Yeah, we could do that another day.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then
for sure.
like you get the Matt Hancocks of the world where they go like texting and then like, yeah, he's not my mate, but now he got a contract to supply vials for testing, and then like the guy has never done anything medical.
Yeah.
And then you go like, it's not mate, but if you go like, we'll actually exchange text messages. Sorry, that for me that's the definition of a mate. I
Yeah.
don't exchange text messages with my MP, which is Dominic Raab in this case.
Yeah.
If I would, then guess what? He's my mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's not gonna text some random um, um, resident in his borough, that kind of thing. Because yeah, he's got other things to do. He has to deal with Iran and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just funny, and like the cronyism, whatever that Western countries often accuse other non-Western countries from. It ends up doing the same. And the only difference is the amounts are much bigger.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A lot bigger.
But yeah, that's frustration, I think, and I think that this is the same thing now, where the help that was there for large businesses are massive, and they are so massive that they can get bridging loans to basically
Yeah.
be able to operate, not doing anything, and then still be able to run 18 months later, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Well, small businesses, they don't get anything
No.
substantial. So you have unfortunately a lot of small businesses going to the brink now.
Exactly.
And it's the same in the US, where like the SBBA, like payment protection programs and such. Actually, not most, a lot of loans for that were supposed to be for small business went to large chains. So yeah, that's kind of sad stuff. But yeah, I'm hoping the government uh, um, has a change of mind. But yeah, I'm not holding out for that, to be
Well,
honest.
they'll put millions into a program, but then does the person that it's intended to help receive those millions, or does
Yes.
that go to the person like the Capitas and Circos to administer it?
Yes, they're like, you guys set up a scheme, and then help the small kids,
Yeah,
and then
and you
like,
take the
well,
millions, and then
yeah,
make
they
sure a
take
few
millions,
thousand
they
goes
take
to the small
90%,
business.
and then 10% actually goes to helping people. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound too depressing though.
Yeah,
We'll get there, and
that's
then
a
I think
different
like
podcast.
small businesses,
Yeah, we will.
I see it as a, yeah, you can try to raise it, but the entrepreneurial spirit is not going to go away, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And that's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My MP, as many others, being a Tory MP, they say the entrepreneurship, but they don't wear it much. But it doesn't stop me from still being successful, that kind of thing.
That's
As
right.
in, yes, it's not the greatest year, but that doesn't mean that I don't have my comeback.
Yes.
Yeah,
And that's why you need to be aligned with what you're doing and be passionate, so you can.
Yeah. So of course, what I
persevere.
do, cybersecurity, like I've been doing this for 2 decades. not showing
Yeah.
my age, sort of. But to be fair, I started with computers was 9, um, because I had a neighbor that was like the head of the, as it was called at the time, calculation center, because they literally had still like calculators.
Wow.
Um, of the Dutch version of BT Telecoms.
Right.
Um, but yeah, that was my break because I came from a not so nice neighborhood, if you will. And I tried to be a fashion photographer, funny enough.
Wow. Wow.
Um, I tried to get into art school, but then I was told I was not artsy enough. And then somebody
Oh.
was like, "Hey, a nerd wanted." So somebody sent through my resume. Was asked to interview. I ended up deconstructing the interview process. And I said, "Well, you're asking these questions, but you actually can't prove if I then know it because you're asking the wrong questions." So I re-engineered your interview process.
Nice.
Uh, well, in the interview. Um, but yeah, but that's funny.
That is funny.
Like especially my father was like so proud. He's like, because I got one of those where it's like, when you get like contract and it says like, oh yeah, fill in what you want to earn, that kind of thing.
Yes.
But yeah, you're 19, you come from a cabinet, but you're like, oh, I just fill something in, and then I was like, I don't know. Um, then yeah, my father literally called the rest of his family because he came from a family of 12, and he's like, yeah, my son is gonna earn this amount. He's in his first job. He's already earning more than I ever earned. And he
Wow.
literally like called the whole family, and especially one of his sisters. Like they had like a rivalry thing going on.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, yeah, he might have not gone to university or something, but yeah, this is how much he's earning per month. So and bye, and boom, like slammed the horn. So yeah, I never seen like my dad so like happy.
Amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's how I
Amazing.
started, short version, and that's why I still do it because I I truly believe that um, it's like it's life changing in a way.
Yeah.
People end up being hacked. Companies
Yeah.
end up going out of existence, or they literally lose millions or sometimes half a billion of their value.
Yeah.
The breaches
It's
get
big.
bigger. You get breaches every day. Today something came out, without going into much technical detail, but basically there's a program that was used by pretty much every Fortune 500 company. Um, and a as it's called, a nation state actor, which basically means only a nation state, like a country, has the money, kind of money.
Right.
That's the short version to make it, not too technical.
Yeah.
But basically, what they did, they infiltrated the updates mechanism they use for the program. So basically, with Word or whatever,
Mm.
or even on your iPhone, you get updates for your apps.
Yep.
So what they did, they managed to infiltrate it and then actually sent in malicious code, which means that basically it's so bad that the one of the U.S. government agencies, which is a four-letter one, which I'm not going to bore you with, but basically they did a statement literally today saying that every civilian agency in the U.S. should literally immediately disconnect that software. Um,
Oh.
and yeah, that's just literally one day. Um, and
Jeez.
so it's one of those things where people in my profession like we're really passionate about it.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, the impact is quite heavy because
Yeah.
um, they found it at the Treasury. So if you're talking about like Treasury in UK, like that nation state actor, which is currently unknown, but you can kind of guess which kind of countries it would be
Yeah.
target. But
Yeah.
they potentially, like now have, if they, did it right, quote unquote, have access to like social security data of like every US
Wow.
citizen, date of birth, whatever. Um, yeah, so it's not like you can change your date of birth, you know what I mean?
No.
Um, you can actually, and this is the funny part, you can change your social security number, but
Oh.
it's extremely hard, apparently.
Oh, okay.
There are some things um, possible. I've been told by American contact. I'm not entirely sure if that's
Yeah.
true. Um, but in general, it's like it's one of those things where um, you feel so powerless.
Yes.
And then like so people in our industry go like like we have to do something. So one of the things that I did at one point was join this volunteer collective called COVID CV19, as in COVID-19,
Right.
which is basically Cyber Volunteers 19. Yeah, I don't know, acronyms are too many acronyms in my
That's
business.
cool.
But yeah, so basically what it was is like all these people coming around across the planet. They were helping like healthcare institutions because what happened is that then of course the not so nice people they were literally attacking hospitals and trying to bring them down and bring computer systems down and such. So of course you can
Wow.
imagine, like normally speaking, that was already a problem, of course. But then if you're dealing with like wards full of people suffering from COVID, it's like
Gosh.
you don't need that on top.
No.
So that was like a volunteer thing where literally people were like literally around the clock, like monitoring channels and like notifying health authorities and such. So they a lot of people um, they would like notify um, NHS trust and be like, I know yeah, we've seen chatter and there's a potential attack and this is what you can do, that kind of thing.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that's the thing, and that really what keeps me going. And I think long story short, it's about your passion,
Yes.
um, and I think that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to find out as well. And then if you then amplify your confidence, then yeah, you can be a game changer.
Yes.
Um, and that doesn't have to mean that we'll become like Oprah. There's only so many Oprahs in the world.
Yeah.
But if you then let's say a voice of reason, if you will, and then can change a village, that's already a massive achievement.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
so many people still don't step into their power. Um, so yeah,
That's right.
that's that I think that's where um, your service really is helpful because there's going to be lots of people that have something to bring, but they don't have the confidence to let it shine.
Yeah, I'm even finding the people who are running master classes are finding other people who run master classes, sort of saying, "Oh, that's really helpful for me." And a lot of the people who are, there to help genuine learners are genuine learners. So that's when you start to, co-create something that's a real community that's supportive.
Um, so yeah, I was wondering as well. Listeners will be existing entrepreneurs, but also people that are thinking about starting a business.
Hmm.
So if you would give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
You don't have to know how you're going to do something. Just start it. Just do it. I every day do something I don't know how it's going to work, but we do it and we figure it out. And sometimes we don't, but we keep doing it anyway. And I would say, if we all could control the controllables, then it makes it, and we let go of the things we can't control. We do what we can. When we're coming from a place of reasons why we can't and we don't know, we don't have, then we're very reactive. And that's not when we're at our best. We're at our
No,
best and we're at our
yeah,
strongest when we're in a place of what can I do, what is possible. I don't know how, but I'm going to try it. And when we're coming from that place of proactivity, that's when we start to really make a difference.
yes, yes, yeah. And it's like I was gonna say like cheesy joke, like you should put that slogan on a t-shirt, but then it's like Nike's gonna have a problem with that.
Yeah, they are.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
but yeah, their lawyer Scott will be out of the gate before you know it. So I'm not gonna suggest that. I was wondering as well, so bit of a fun question. If you had a magic wand, would you want to make happen?
Oh, so many things. I would want people to stop judging themselves, judging each other, and just start living.
Yeah, that's a great part. I was gonna say like yeah, le less less judging and more being,
Yes,
like
exactly.
be in the moment.
Yep.
Don't think about like what you did or did not do wrong in the past.
Yes.
Don't and this is a reminder for myself, to be fair.
Mhm.
And that's how I like to do this podcast. I'm not pretending to be perfect. Don't overstress of what the future holds. Just try to focus on what you can do right now.
Yes.
Try to do it as best as possible, and try to um, push yourself forward. And I like to say, like, fail forward.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, as in I know so it's probably some quote from somebody else. I'm quite confident there.
but
Um,
but
but yeah, that's
we
the whole
judge
point. They
ourselves,
have
we judge
to.
each other,
Yes.
we're limited by other people's limitations, we're comparing ourselves, and none of that helps us to be able to really live.
Yeah, and I know also, I have two daughters, and it's like one of the things is that don't let other people your opinion define you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because that's like it's very easy to um, lose confidence as well
Yes.
if you start giving into like other people's opinion. Well,
Mhm.
if you hold true, if you will, or hold down the fort, depending trying to find the right metaphor.
Yeah.
Um, then it's easy to hold on, but if you start caring too much about like other people's opinion, then
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's not good for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, ap- Again, I'm run out of questions. But I was like gonna say, yeah, don't I have anything else to ask? Anything else that you thought about that you was like, okay, that's interesting. I wanted to bring that up.
No, I think you've covered a really great range and of questions, and we've covered a great range of kind of topics and angles on topics. And I really appreciate that. It's been interesting and fun talking to you.
Okay, that's what I'm going for, and I hope that's the same for the listeners. What would be your favorite cabaret song?
Oh, um, oh, that's
I know, but
that's a
the reason why
tough one.
the reason why I'm asking is that maybe it's one of those things that the listener can take away and be like, sing along and be like, hey, like I feel better,
Yeah,
like an empowerment song, that kind of thing.
I love a power ballad. Do you know?
Yes.
But I'm gonna go with maybe this time Liza Minnelli and Cabaret.
Okay, yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's where we can end.
yeah.
That says it all. Yes. Legend. Yeah. So thank you for your time.
It's a
It
pleasure.
was a pleasure. I had fun. I hope you had fun. Um,
Definitely had fun. I hope the listeners had fun.
yes. So yeah, for the listeners at home, on your surfboard, on the tropical island, on the North Pole, in the space station. If you're on the space station, do let me know. I would like a shout out. I have my oldest wants to be an astronaut, so anything
Wow,
space is cool with me.
amazing.
Um, and then I will see you all in next episode.
Thank you so much. It was such a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for tuning in this episode. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I look forward to having you tune in again next episode. See you next time.